Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Page 4. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel, vani berov chastecha, avo veitecha, eshtacha velecha al kochecha, veiratecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel. Adonai ahavti me'om beitecha u'mekom mishkan kevodecha, mishkan kvodecha, vani eshtachave Israel, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel, vani tefilati lecha, Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chasdecha, Elohim berov chasdecha, Haneni be'emet ishecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, mishkenotecha Israel, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel, mishkenotecha Good morning. Shabbat Shalom and welcome everyone. It's great. It's a great honor. It's a great pleasure to be here leading services for you. Thank you so much for letting us into your homes so we can all celebrate Shabbat together. We may be physically separated, but I truly believe that we are united in prayer, we are united in the presence of God. And it's a great way to create community, to feel that we are connected. That's why we have the chat. By the way, we have tons of messages this morning. We are going to read, we are going to go through that in a few minutes. But there is something that I would like you to consider today. As we start a new book in the Torah, this week we start the book of Exodus, second book in the Torah. And there is something that is truly amazing. When God finally reached out to Moses, it was in the midst of the burning bush, remember? But I love the way that scene is described in the Torah. Moses was walking in the middle of nowhere, and it said that he noticed something strange. He noticed a bush on fire, but it's not being consumed. So what did he do? He got closer to it. And the rabbis say that quote unquote, simple act of responding to that curiosity was rewarded by God talking to him. And I realized how many times we go through life and we have true wonders around us and we miss it. And it's not that we miss it because we didn't see it, we miss it because we make a decision not to stop doing whatever we're doing and get closer to experience something different. I'm going to talk more about that during the sermon, but I would like you today to take the challenge to try to connect with your feelings as we go through the service. Because I realize that sometimes we do feel something. We feel connected to God. Maybe it's a prayer that specifically talks to you. Don't let it go. Just stop and get a little closer to it. Tap into that feeling. Tap into that thought. And I believe, just like in the Parsha, you may even hear the voice of God. So, with that in mind, let's go into our service. Why don't we read a few of the chat, Leslie, before we go into the Birkot HaShachar?
That would be wonderful. We have so many nice well wishes this morning. And I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to David Wilder, Bonnie Robinson, Phyllis Laveman, Zelda Elkin. Welcome Roberto Franco, Jerome Foman, Stephen Cantor, Sandy Polanski, Deborah Barenhout, Yerach is here, Yehuda Cherney. Shabbat Shalom to you all. Evelyn Hecht, Rena Elbaz, Bonnie Cham, Rocky Pollock. Terry is here, Israel and Lori Ben Nun are here, Alice is here, Judy Shirak is here, and there's some news sprinkled throughout all the Shabbat Shaloms you see because we have two rabbis who have special things happening in their lives right now. We are so lucky to have a lot to celebrate this morning. We have a birthday rabbi here this morning, Rabbi Anibal Mas. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rabbi Mas. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
Thank you, guys.
Well, you're so welcome.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Rabbi Leibel also has some news he shared last night.
It's true. My wife and I are having a baby soon, and I've told the Kabbalat Shabbat crowd last night, and some people have already said that, so lots to celebrate, but I wanted to say a happy birthday to my partner and Rabbi Mas.
You never said that before?
I didn't really make an official announcement, no.
This is it.
Wow.
I'm a bit of a secret keeper, I guess. And because no one has seen my wife really out, Heather, we've been kind of at home. No one knew. I mean, it went by like this before we realized, oh my gosh, it's like been 5 months and we haven't even told anyone at staff, and we just started telling people at the shul and things like that. But no, I officially, a few people had heard and they were saying things on the chat, and I was like, okay, got to let this cat out of the bag. So that's great. But
yeah, you like cats.
are you one of those people Rabbi, who talks about what your age is, or do you like to pretend? Like, do you? Some people don't like to.
Of course, I talk about my age.
Okay.
And it's very easy. I'm 51, and it's very easy to calculate because I was born in 1970.
Ah.
It's fast math right there, Rabbi.
So I go with the year, right? If it's 2021, it's 51. So it's very easy to, and beginning of the year. So you have only 9 days to be wrong about my age.
I was thinking we could do it about. I was thinking we could do it like the Omer. If the Omer kept going by 2 more days, that's the number of years Rabbi Mas is today.
Yeah. Last year was 50.
Right. Shavuot. But I was also thinking about like what an unlucky situation.
Yeah.
In Argentina. It's the summer.
Yeah, it is.
You've got a summer. You were born in the summer, and then sure you moved to Winnipeg, and now you're.
Yeah, there
stuck
was nobody
celebrating.
there for my birthday to celebrate. All my friends were in the beach. I mean, I guess now with the pandemic, they were all around, but
That's
anyway.
Before we go, guys, there's
But
one.
now I'm here.
Rabbis, there's one great comment here. Terry said that she prefers birthday cake to the birthday song. I think I'm on her camp.
birthday cake.
Now, if anybody here would like to celebrate Rabbi Anibal Mas's birthday at home, we highly encourage you to eat cake today.
Exactly.
Celebrate what you can celebrate. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Have a birthday party for our rabbi.
Like Terry.
Just like Terry.
And I don't, you know that I don't eat cake, right? I avoid carbs, like.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So what
But
do you have on your birthday?
Nevertheless, I had a cinnamon bun this morning.
Oh, good. That's not cake.
You were close.
I don't know. I just had it. It was Ronen's, but I hope she's not watching.
Oh, you're in trouble now. He knows it.
Well, happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Many happy returns.
Okay.
All right.
You ready now?
Stephen Cantor said, does Hugo wants a little brother or a little sister? Did you ask him?
We do. I said this last night. When we say to Hugo, that's my son, who's almost 2, are you having a brother or a sister? He goes, sister. And then I'm like, oh, really? Brother.
I can't believe that.
He wants twins, doesn't
One of
he?
those will be right.
And just last night he went, brother, sister. So he knows as much as I know.
He could be a good rabbi.
What? He
He
could be
a good rabbi. He will make everybody happy. Okay. Let's
Okay.
begin our service, counting our blessings. Come on. Please rise. Birkot HaShachar, page 5. Let's sing it together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatavi, Shenatatavi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan לעשך ובנעליו ימים ולילה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני בצלמו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני בן חורין. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני ישראל. Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatavi, Shenatatavi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokei achivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Amen. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatavi, Shenatatavi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, roka haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamehi mitzadei gaber.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael v'gevura.
Amen.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatavi, Shenatatavi, Tehorai, Tehorai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael v'tifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, anotel layav kohach.
Amen.
One more time. Elohai, Neshama,
Neshama.
Shenatatavi, Shenatatavi, Tehorai, Tehorai. And please remain standing, page 7, Baruch She'amar. Baruch She'amar ve'aya olam. Baruch Hu, Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer ve'oseh, Baruch Ozer u'mekayem, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al haperiot, Baruch meshalem sachar tov liream, Baruch kalah וקיים לנצח, ברוך פודה ומציל, ברוך שמו And you may be seated. I love the thread here talking about the cheesecake, right? That Terry said here, low carb kosher cheesecake from Brooklyn. No, my wife makes a great one. It's very easy. It's not about because, and then, no, they're talking fat free. No, it's not fat free. The low carb is full of fat. But then you replace the sugar with Splenda, and the crust is usually made with ground almonds. Delicious. I'm hungry now.
Can I have the recipe? I like it.
It's 3 ingredients, basically.
Oh, good.
It's very
Now
easy to
I
make.
want cheesecake.
Me too.
Page 8. Let's praise the name of God together with Psalm 148.
I'm not sure if it's it saves me from doing it later, but I'm not sure if there's any cheesecake on the menu, but Chef Joel has a new Shabbat dinner takeout menu available for people who live in Winnipeg.
Yes.
If they want to check it out. Not sure about the cheesecake, but they can.
Is
they
it
can check
already in
that
our
out.
website?
It is.
So
That's great.
check it out. You know, the last one he put together for the new year, out of this world.
It was great.
Very successful. So check it out. Page 8, Psalm 148. הללו את אדוני מן השמיים, הללוהו במרומים, הללוהו כל מלאכיו, הללוהו כל צבאיו, הללויה, הללויה. הללו שמש וירח, הללו כל כוכבי אור, הללו שמי השמיים והמים אשר מעל השמיים, הללויה, 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 הללו כל מלאכיו, הללו כל צבאיו, הללויה, הללויה. Please rise for Mourner's Kaddish, page 46. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
וילמד דברה חידותי וימליך מלכותי, בחי יחון וביום יחון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן.
Amen.
יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה וימרו אמן.
Amen.
יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן.
Amen.
עושה שלום ממרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו.
Amen.
Well, you may be seated. As we continue now on page 10 with Shochenet. But before that, Leslie, any message that you would like to share with us?
You know, we have so many wonderful messages this morning. I didn't even get through them all last time. But I would like to wish Bonnie Robinson a Shabbat Shalom and Othmain as well. Leon Pinkovich is here. It's good to see you. And Riva and Scott McWilliam, good Shabbos to you. Ian Rabb is here. Shabbat Shalom. And there's just so much good stuff on here. Leo and Sammy and Joanne Seif and Jeff, good Shabbos to you and your family. Dolly Cohen is here as well. We have a very full house this morning, and it's a wonderful way to begin our service. Murray Nazen is here. Good Shabbos to you, Murray and Faggy Hecht. Jackie Wasserman, lovely to have you this morning and to know you're here. Thank you all so much for taking a moment to say hello and Shabbat Shalom. If I ever miss your message, just know I saw it, and I'm wishing you a good Shabbos. We all are, and we're so humbled and so happy to have you here this morning.
Thank you, Leslie. Let's continue. Page 10, second paragraph. Shochenat marom v'kadosh shemo.
Shochenat marom v'kadosh shemo.
בפי ישרים תתהלל, ודברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, וקרב קדושים תתקדש. חצי קדיש, bottom of the page. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביום יחון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך ישבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמת קודשה בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה נושבחתה ונחמתה נמירם בעלמא ואימרו 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 Amen. Please rise to bless the name of God, the source of all blessing. Page 12. Barechu et Adonai Hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or u'morech osher oseh shalom u'voret hakol.
And you may be seated, and we are going to jump into the Shema Israel. We are going to do it in a different way today. Haven't done it this way in a while. If you turn to page 14, you will see that there is a version that starts with some English words. It's called listen. And I realize sometimes it's good to add a little bit of English because sometimes it's good to know what's going on with the prayer. Hebrew sounds great. Hebrew connects us with tradition. Hebrew it's a holy language. But sometimes it's good to combine it with a little bit of the language that we use to communicate with each other to add a little bit of meaning to the prayer. So let's sing it together. Page 14. Listen and Shema Israel. If you are lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all your might. Write them and learn them and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Quiet yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter that gets in the way and listen to our God. When the wind and the thunder finally disappear, there's still a voice that you can hear if you listen to to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill or from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. Close your eyes and listen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Leolam Vaed. Listen, listen to our God. Listen, listen to our God. Please continue silently, pages 15, 16, and top of 17. Adonai Elohim Emet. Page 17. Mechamocha. Michamocha Baelim Adonai. Mikamocha Nedar Bakodesh. Norat Tehilot. Osefele Michamocha Baelim Adonai Mikamocha Nedar Bakodesh Nora Tehilot Osefele Shira Hadasha Shivechu Keulim Leshimcha על שפת הים, יחד כולם, הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות. Osefele, please rise. Tzur Israel, Umamezrat Israel, Ufedechinu Mechayeu, Dabe Israel, O Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemot, Kedosh Israel. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוספלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל. remain standing for the Amidah. We're going to start singing together on page 18. We're going to do together the first 3 blessings. And after the Ledor Vador, we are going to continue silently. For the silent part, please feel free to use the Hebrew, the English, or your own words of prayer. As I mentioned at the beginning of the service, this is the time to discover something, to let ourselves be amazed by rediscovering some kind of spiritual experience. So give yourself the freedom to discover that. If you can, find a quiet spot at home, and let's try to tap into those feelings, into those thoughts, so we can get a strong connection with our Creator. Page 18, let's start together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם, אדוני מחיים את דמעתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח, מוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עבר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך מימית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנת להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. Bottom of page 20. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו, בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אז וכל רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנשאים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך, מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב וימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. ואיננו תרנה מלכותך כדבר אמור ושליוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. Page 22. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד לך.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד לך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו, מפרינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד לך.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד לך. יהיה מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. כי יהיה מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה.
ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Amen.
Please continue silently with your own version of the Amidah. Once you complete your prayer, you may be seated. Kaddish Shalem, page 32. יתגדל ויתקדש שמד אהבה,
Amen.
יעלמה דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי ויקונו יום יקונו וכתב כל בית ישראל וגלה בזמן גרי וימרו. אמן. יש שמד אהבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתרעל שמדי קודשה. בריחו לעין לה מכל כתב ושידתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה תמידם ילמה וימרו. אמן. תתקבל צלותינו וברכותיון דכל ישראל. כודעם אבון ושמיה וימרו.
Amen.
יש למה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו על כל ישראל וימרו.
Amen.
עושה שלום ממרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו. Amen. Please rise for the Torah service, page 33, Vayehi v'insoa Aharon. Vayehi v'insoa Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Uma Adonai, ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ולדבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
אחד אלוהינו, כאדון אדוננו, כאדון שמו.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Page 34. גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל דרוש. רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, וישתחוו לאדון רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, וישתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
Great Shacharit and great Torah service start. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You may be seated. We move now to the next part of our service, the Torah reading. And we'll switch books. Let me show you which one in case you have a hard copy. The Etz Chaim Chumash, this big red leather-bound book. If you don't have a hard copy of the Etz Chaim Chumash, not to worry. Just log on to our website, szwinnipeg.ca, and if you follow the links, you'll see a spot where there are Sidurim and Chumash pages. We update the PDFs every week for you so that you can follow along with our Torah service, with our Torah reading, which, as Rabbi Mas mentioned at the beginning of the service today, comes from a new book. Today we begin the book of Shemot with the Parsha of Shemot, known in English as Exodus. And since we are in the middle, the second triennial cycle, reading the middle part of all of these Parshiot, we just need a little recap. Joseph, at the end of the book of Breshit, Jacob died, Joseph died, and now it's been some time. And now there's been a new Pharaoh, a new king, who did not know Joseph, who did not, that's what we're told in the Torah, right? Did not know of what Joseph had done, wasn't sympathetic towards all of Joseph's family. Because what has happened from this family of Jacob and his 12 sons and his daughter and family of 70 has really grown into a fledgling nation living among the Egyptian people. And this new king who doesn't know the backstory, doesn't know the context, his immediate reaction, like a lot of times with all of us when we don't know something, we fear. And he fears that these Israelites, as they have not been known yet, but we know that they are, these Hebrews, as they are referred to today in the Parsha, are not loyal to the Egyptians. And should there be a war, maybe they'll join up with our enemies, or maybe they'll lead an insurgence, a rebellion against us themselves. And we're so familiar with a lot of these stories because they inform Pesach, which is a huge part, Passover, of our tradition, of our Jewish consciousness all over the world, that they're enslaved. The Egyptians enslave the Israelites, the Hebrews. They make them do hard work with mortar and brick. They make them build these two towns, Piton and Ramses. Then there is, to slow down their production, there's this order, this decree from the Pharaoh that all baby boys should be killed. But there are these two midwives who don't follow that rule, but as a result, it's still very dangerous to have a baby boy. And this little baby who becomes Moses is born, and his mother sends him in a little basket down the river. He's discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter. He's weaned by a woman that his sister Miriam follows, all this stuff that we remember, right? And then Moses grows up in the palace. He grows up in royalty. But he still knows that he's a Hebrew. One day he sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave, and he kills the Egyptian taskmaster, hides the body, buries the body in the sand, thinks no one saw, but the next day someone makes reference to the fact that this happened, and so he runs away. And he gets taken in after demonstrating an act of kindness by this guy named Yitro, Kohen Midyan, the priest of Midyan, this land in the Sinai Peninsula that's to the east of Egypt. He takes Moses in, he gives Moses his daughter Tzipporah as a wife, and Moses has a couple of kids, and that's where we pick up the story today. As Rabbi Mas mentioned, there is a lot in the early Parshiot of the book of Shemot, so much important stuff, so many fascinating things for us to sink our teeth into. So it's one of these readings where we really encourage you to follow along. Today's story includes the burning bush, God's first revelation to Moshe, to Moses. Signs and wonders, and Moshe, this is our first glimpse really into Moshe's character. I mean, we saw a little bit in some of the stories that we just alluded to, but really we see a lot about Moshe and his unwillingness to take on the mantle of leadership, making excuses. But God will not be deterred. It reminds me of that expression, some are born great, some become great, some have greatness thrust upon them. It certainly feels like as this story progresses and what we read today, that Moshe has greatness thrust upon him unwillingly. He certainly doesn't want it. And that raises a lot of questions about, I guess, what we think of Moses. And so I'll invite you to grapple with some of those things. You can engage on the chat. We have a number of celebrations and commemorations as part of our Torah service as well. And we are going to get right into it. On page 326, if you have the Etz Chaim Chumash, page 326, we are in the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. Our first two aliyot this morning will be chanted by Leslie Emery. I don't think we have anybody for these two aliyot, do we, Rabbi? That means that one of them is going to have to be you. You know that, right? Because it's your birthday? Okay. Do you have a mic back there so that you can do the blessings?
I'll bring him the mic.
You can do the second one so that you can give him one. That's perfect. I don't think anyone mentioned anything about grabbing an aliyah off the start. So, Leslie, I'm going to give you the first aliyah.
Thank you.
You ready?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. Page 326, chapter 3, verses 1 to 6. V'yazor v'yagem v'yashil l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol avogodel Eloheinu tnu chavod l'Torah tamod. Shoshana b'alei malka l'aliyah rishona. Baruch shenatan Torah mo Yisrael b'kedushato. Ve'atem advekim b'Adonai Elohechem. Chaim kolchem hayom.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Moshe haya roeh et tzon nitrochot no kohen Midyan vayinhag et hatzon achar midbar vayavo el har Elohim choreva vayera malach Adonai elav v'labatesh mitoch hasneh vayar V'nei asneh boer va'esh, v'asnei neinu kal. Vayomer Moshe, Esra na'avere, et hamare hagadol hazeh, madua lo yivar asneh. Vayahar Adonai kisar lirot, vayikra elav Elohim, mitoch asneh. Vayomer Moshe, Moshe, vayomer hineni, vayomer al tikrav halom, shal ne'alecha me'al raglecha, ki hamakom, asher ata omed alav, admat kodesh hu, vayomer, anochi Elohei avicha, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Vayaster Moshe panav, ki yareh me'abid Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Double Yasher Kochech, Leslie,
Baruch Tia, thank you.
for the Aliyah and a beautiful reading to get us started this morning with Rishon, our first reading from the Torah. We'll continue with Sheni. Leslie will keep reading for us. Page 328 in the Etz Chaim Chumash, still chapter 3, verses 7 through 10. Just wanted to point out something interesting I learned in preparation for reading the Parsha this week, that the word sneh, the bush of the burning bush, other than here in this little episode, that word, the rabbis are already fascinated by words that really don't appear a lot in the Torah or in the Tanakh, right? It can make it a little bit tricky to translate when there aren't places to compare. That was how they did a lot of translations. We know this now. Sneh, this word, appears only here And then one other time, I believe it's late in Deuteronomy, in the Song of Moses, that tricky poem at the end of the Torah, where we're not really sure when it was written. It doesn't really fit. It's kind of an unusual poem, and it refers to God as being the God of the bush or something like that. But it's so interesting that this is the only place where we have sneh, and it does seem to be, I was reading one explanation, it does seem to be a little bit of a play on words. We know the Torah not only is not immune to plays on words, but quite often there are deliberate puns and plays on words. We saw that with names and things, for example, recently. That sneh is kind of connected to Sinai, which of course is interesting here because the reference here to the mountain of God, which we know traditionally in most places in the Torah, Sinai, here this is one of the places where it's referred to as Chorev. And of course there's debate. Are Chorev and Sinai interchangeable names for the mountain? Is one more the region and one's the mountain? It's just interesting that there is an idea that there is a link between this Hebrew word sneh, which became then a word for the bush, and Sinai, which is where this episode's happening. And of course, it'll take some time for Moshe to get back there with all the people at Shavuot, which we know of the giving of the Torah. That, and another thing to point out, every time we do the Amidah, we open with that very familiar phrase, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. We, of course, add the matriarchs, which we assume that had this happened in a more egalitarian world would have been included too. But this is why. That's why we do that. And it's because right here, God reveals God's self to Moses in that way. And very interesting, right? It's not Elohei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. It's Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov. One possible interpretation, that each person has to discover God on his or her own terms. You can't just inherit the relationship of even someone like your father and his relationship with God, or your mother. You have to find God on your own terms. I found that very fascinating. I like that. Hope you do too. All right, let's keep going. The birthday boy.
Woohoo.
Rabbi Aniva Mas. I don't know that I've ever been able to make a Misha Berach for you for your birthday. This is very, very special, so I'm glad we had an open aliyah, and then we could kind of surprise you with this. Rabbi Mas, celebrating his 51st birthday today, is our next honoree for Sheni, verses 7 through 10. Yamod, 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 Harav Yitzchak ben Yehuda Moshe veRivka, Laliyah Hashniya.
Barechu et Adonai המבורך.
Baruch Adonai mevorach le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
אמן. ויאמר אדוני ראו ראיתי את עני עמי אשר במצרים וצעקתם שמעתי מפני נוגשיו כי ידעתי את מכאוביו וירד להצילו מיד מצרים ולהעלותו מן הארץ ההיא אל ארץ טובה ורחבה אל ארץ זבת חלב ודבש אל מקום הכנעני והחיתי והאמורי והפריזי והחיבי והיבוסי ועתה הנה צעקת בני ישראל באה אלי וגם ראיתי את הלחץ אשר מצרים לוחצים אותם ועתה הלך ואשלחך אל פרעה והוצא את עמי בני ישראל ממצרים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה הוא יברך את הרב יצחק בן יהודה משה ורבקה, שעלה היום לכבוד המקום ולכבוד התורה ולכבוד השבת, ולהודות על כל החסדים אשר גמלו אלוהים מיום היוולדו עד היום הזה. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור אותו ואת כל משפחתו, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיו, עם כל ישראל אחיו, ונאמר Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Rabbi Anibal Mas, who has come for an aliyah this morning with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and Shabbat, grateful to God for the gift of life which he has enjoyed until this day. Rabbi, may the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, continue to bless you with length of years, with good health, with the pleasures of Torah study, and with the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of Ma'asim Tovim, a life of good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may your example continue to remind us. People may count the days of their lives, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. Ad mea ve'esrim, amigo.
Thank you.
Mazel tov. Let us all say, Amen. Simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov. Yehelanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael.
Mazel tov and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Many, many, many
Mazel
happy
tov, Rabbi.
returns.
Thank you, guys.
Mazel tov.
And Yisher Kochech to Leslie. Two beautiful Torah readings to get us started this morning.
Thank you.
I'm going to slide up there in just a moment and pick up the Yad and continue with Shlishi, which is our third Torah reading this morning. Page 329, that's page 329 if you're following in the Etz Chaim Chumash. This will cover verses 11 through 15 as we have another birthday celebration. Dolly Cohn is also marking a very special birthday this morning with this aliyah to the Torah. We couldn't twist her arm into a Zoom aliyah. Maybe next one, but we are thrilled that she has chosen to mark this special occasion in her life with this aliyah to the Torah. So Dolly, thank you so much. Many happy returns of the day to you. And let's continue. Bill will probably be reciting the blessings on Dolly's behalf, I understand. So we'll call her up, and then I will slide up to the Torah as well. Let's continue. Page 329, verses 11 through 15. Ta'amod, Penina bat Shmuel v'tama, Laliyah ha'shlishit.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Borach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe el ha-Elohim, mi anochi ki elech el paro, v'chi otzi b'nei Yisrael mi-Mitzrayim. Vayomer ki ehyeh imach, v'zeh lecha ha'od ki anochi shelachticha. B'hotziacha et ha'am mi-Mitzrayim, tavdun et ha-Elohim al ha'ar hazeh. Vayomer Moshe el Elohim, הנה אנוכי בא אל בני ישראל, ואמרתי להם, אלוהי אבותיכם שלחני עליכם, ואמרו לי מה שמו, מה אומר עליהם. ויאמר אלוהים אל משה, אהיה אשר אהיה, ויאמר כה תאמר לבני ישראל, אהיה שלחני עליכם, ויאמר עוד אלוהים אל משה, כה תאמר אל בני ישראל, אדוני אלוהי אבותיכם, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, ואלוהי יעקב שלחני עליכם, זה שמי לעולם, וזה זכרי לדור דור.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yasher Kochech to Dolly Cohn, our honorary honoree with this third Aliyah, celebrating her birthday with us. Mazel Tov to you, Dolly. It's an honor to recite this Misha Berach on the occasion of your special birthday. Misha Berach, Avotenu Aram Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yavarech, Et Penina bat Shmuel v'Tama. שעלתה היום לכבוד המקום ולכבוד התורה ולכבוד השבת, ולהדות על כל החסדים אשר גמלה אלוהים מיום היוולדת היום הזה. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור אותה ואת כל משפחתה, וישלח ברכה וצלחה בכל מעשה ידיה, עם כל ישראל אחיה, ונאמר Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Dolly Cohn, who has come for an aliyah this morning with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and the Shabbat, grateful to God for the gift of life which she has enjoyed until this day. Dolly, may the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, continue to bless you with length of years, good health, the pleasures of Torah study, and the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of ma'asim tovim, a life of good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may your example remind us, people may count the days of their life, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. And let us all say, Amen. Simin tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'simin tov, simin tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'simin tov, simin tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'simin tov. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, yehi lanu, u'lecho Yisrael. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehi lanu, Yehi lanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehi lanu, Yehi lanu, Ulecho Yisrael.
Mazel tov, happy birthday, many more.
A huge mazel tov. Admei V'Asrim. Dolly and Lawrence have celebrated some very special occasions with us. This is just the latest, and it's a great honor for us. We wish you all the best and look forward to many more simchas. Yasher Kochech again, from strength to strength. We'll continue in a moment with Rivi'i, our fourth aliyah. Phyllis Laveman is going to join us. Well, I still can't convince her to join us, and probably not after today. She's my fashion consultant, and she doesn't like when I wear white shirts. But it's like a laundry day, so I only had white shirts.
She doesn't like white shirts?
I can never. She's very demanding of me as my fashion consultant. She's good. She's very good, and I'm a little sloppy, so I need all the help I can get. But I got to try and get her on Zoom. So she's going to join us as an honoree for the next aliyah, the fourth Rivi'i, which is page 331. Verses 16 through 22. There was just an incredible joke last night. One of the one of the prayers that I really love towards the end of Kabbalat Shabbat, get everyone singing is Kad Shenu with the V'taher Libenu. And yesterday I didn't wear my hair clip, and Phyllis asked on the chat where my hair clip was, because she's very tough on me, and she should be. It's good. I like that. And somebody wrote back that I was growing my hair for a new, I think it was like a Jewish or rabbi's men's hairstyling product called V'taher Libenu or something like that, which I thought was pretty clever. But it's great to have Phyllis join. The last thing I just want to say about the Parsha, in that last one that we read for Dolly's birthday, Aliyah, an incredible moment. I talked about this. This is the subject of my toast last night, my Devar before Kiddush. Moses wants to know God's name. And it actually makes sense. Moses has been didn't grow up among the Hebrew people. So he doesn't know the way of the Hebrews, right? He grew up in the palace. He knows he's a Hebrew somehow, we're not told, but he doesn't know the way of the Hebrews. So when God appears to him, it actually makes sense that he would say, when I go and say to them that you appeared to me, they're going to ask what your name is. What do I tell them? And God responds, Ehiyeh asher ehiyeh. I will be what I will be. Which, I mean, like I said last night, there are sermons, and I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of sermons over the years, and a lot of thought that can come out of the fact. I mean, I think this sets up the idea that if you know Hebrew and you look at God's name, the unpronounceable Yud He Vav He, it does seem to be working with the root He Vav He, which is kind of an extension of He Yud He for Hayah, to be, and it's kind of setting that up, right? And in the next moment, God refers to himself, God's self, by that name, which is really the first indication in the Torah of God revealing God's self to one of the Torah heroes, if we can call them that, with that 4-letter name. But just this idea that God's name is somehow tied up in this concept of I will be what I will be. So curious to hear what people's interpretations of that would be based on what you've read, what you've learned, or how that strikes you. Maybe that could lead to a little discussion on the chat or future emails. We don't have a lot of time to get into it now. You can go back and watch the service last night for one possible interpretation I shared that resonates with me, the idea that if we're all striving to find how we are in the image of God, and we know that God's name is I will be what I will be, perhaps our godliness is in our potential to do great things, to do good deeds. What's the best is yet to come. And that can be possibly where we discover our individual and also our collective godliness. Just, it's too good a line and too good a scene not to say something a little bit about it. But we continue. Rivi'i, 4th Aliyah, page 331, still in chapter 3 of the book of Exodus, and now verses 16 through 22. Ta'amod Sipora bat Regina, Lalia Harvit.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lech ve'asafta et ziknei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem Adonai Elohei avotechem nira elai Elohei Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov lemor pakadati etchem ve'asui lachem b'Mitzrayim va'omar Alechem me'oni Mitzrayim el eretz haknani ve'hachiti ve'ha'emori ve'ha'prizi ve'hachivi ve'hayevusi el eretz zavat chalav udvash ve'shamu lekolecha uvata ata v'ziknei Yisrael el melech Mitzrayim v'amartem Elav Adonai Elohei ha'ivrim nikra aleinu ve'ata nelchana derech shloshet yamim bamidbar v'nizbecha l'Adonai Eloheinu v'ani yadati ki lo yiten etchem melech Mitzrayim lahaloch ve'lo b'yad chazaka v'shilachti et yadi v'hiketi et Mitzrayim b'chol niflotai asher eseh b'kirbo ve'acharechen yishalach etchem v'natati etchen hamazeh b'nei Mitzrayim v'haya ki telechun lo telchu rekam v'shala isha mishchenta umigarat beita klei chesef uchlei zahav usmalot v'samtem al bnechem v'al bnotechem v'nitzaltem et Mitzrayim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yisher kochech to Phyllis Laveman, our honorary fourth honoree. I know I'll never be able to convince her to join us on Zoom, even though she has a beautiful voice, and it would be great to hear her and see her. But we are still very thankful that she wants to commemorate these occasions with these aliyot to the Torah, so we'll take that for sure. And I am sure that when I open my email inbox on Monday, there will be a message waiting for me.
She said that white shirts are not camera friendly.
She's told me. She's told me all about it. I told you. She's the consultant. She knows. But I am getting a little bit of love for my shirt from other people. I don't want to divide the congregation. I don't want to divide the congregation on my shirt. On anything, but certainly not on because of my shirt. Let's continue with our fifth aliyah. I believe our next honoree is joining us by Zoom, which is really special because Rose Muchnick, we used to see her week after week, every Shabbat morning, and then she moved away. And Zoom is it makes this situation possible because now Rose, who can follow our services or has been able to in the past ever since she moved out west, can now join us by Zoom and participate like she used to with this aliyah to the Torah. So it's great to have Rose Muchnick back with us, one of our regulars. Page 332 is where our reading continues here with Chamishi, our fifth aliyah. On to the next chapter, chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. Tamod Shoshana bat Dov Aryeh v'Sonya l'aliyah hachamishit.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Borach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim ve'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayan Moshe, vayomer, vehen lo yaminu li, velo yishmeu bekoli, ki yomru lo nira elech Adonai. Vayomer elav Adonai mazeh biyadecha, vayomer mateh, vayomer hashlichehu arza, vayashlichehu arza, vayehi lenachash, vayanos Moshe mipanav. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, shlach yadcha vechoz biznavo, vishlach yado vayachazek bo, vayehi lemate bechapo, leman yaminu, ki nira elech Adonai Elohei avotam, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'techenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
So great to see
I would
you.
just like to welcome all my children across the country who are joining us in davening today.
Great.
Welcome to them all.
Beautiful.
It's lovely
beautiful.
to see you, though. It's been a long, long time. Maybe this will inspire Phyllis to come aboard live. What do you think?
I hope. I can only hope. Rose, I still need to set up my camera here, but someone mentioned, as Bill just said, that seeing you is so fabulous, and certainly getting to hear you is great. You mentioned your kids. It's a little personal connection for me. One of Rose's daughters was my first ever babysitter.
Uh-oh.
This is a well-known story. I talked about this before. At least I've mentioned it before from the Bema. But yes, this is true. So I try to find ways by having the fact that I grew up here and that I'm from here, connecting with lots of congregants. And that's one of the things that I always think of with Rose for sure. As well, of course, seeing her every week in shul on Shabbat for so many of my early years. So it's great.
And
Great
your
to have you
son
back.
was born on my husband's birthday, January 31st.
You remember. That's great.
Wow.
Well, Sam was wonderful too. So that's a great connection. Miss him
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, Rose. Thank you.
All the very best, Rose.
Oh, let's continue with she. Did you say, Rabbi, that Thelma is not Zooming? Okay. So Thelma Suris is our honoree for she, the sixth Aliyah this morning. We'll continue on page 33, still through chapter 4 now, verses 6 through 9. Let's get into it. Tamod Tova bat Gedalia v'Leah, Lalia hashishit.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach le'olam voed.
Baruch Adonai vorach leolam vaed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai Lord Havena yadcha b'cheikecha vayave yado b'cheiko vayotzia v'hine yado b'tzorat kashaleg vayomer hashev yadcha el cheikecha vayashev yado el cheiko vayotzia mecheko v'hine shava kivsaro v'haya im lo yaminu leach v'lo yishmeu lekol haot harishon v'heminu lekol haot hacharon v'haya im lo yaminu gam lishnei haotot ha'ele v'lo yishmeu lekolecha v'lakachta mimei hayeor v'shafachta hayabasha v'hayu hamayim asher tikach min hayeor v'hayu ladam bayabashet.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yisher kochech to Thelma Suris, our sixth honoree this morning, which brings us now to our final Torah reading. Shvi'i Maftir, page 334, verses 10 through 17. Our Haftarah reader, Harlan Abels, who celebrated his bar mitzvah with this parsha, if I did my math correctly, 11 years ago. We'll check that when he joins us in just a second. Just before we do, though, of course, what we've been working through here in the last couple of aliyot, and it'll reach its conclusion here in this final reading of the morning, our seventh, our Maftir, the signs. Right, so much of this back and forth between Moshe and God and this first interaction, it really sets the tone, doesn't it? This is the first of many times that God and Moses will be going back and forth. And here, of course, Moshe is humble, but he's almost a little too humble. It's not unheard of for prophets in our tradition not to want to be prophets. Moshe is often compared to Jeremiah. The two of them have so much in common. And Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, he very much did not want to be a prophet. So that is there. But God spends a lot of the time trying to convince Moshe, right? We have this business with the staff and the snake, and then his hand in his shirt, and it comes out, and it's not so much leprosy as it's right like this scaly, white, disgusting discoloration. He puts it back, it's fine, turning water into blood, which of course is a little foreshadowing for the first of the 10 plagues. All the ways that Moshe will feel confident and equipped when he goes to the elders and when he goes to the community and tries to say to them, look, God appeared to me, I'm here to rescue us, to rescue all of you. And they fight back and they say, what are you talking about? He's going to have ways to convince him. But of course, a lot of it is to convince Moses. It's positioned as being something to convince the people, but it's Moses, at least I would argue, who needs a lot of the convincing. And finally, Moses is going to say, but still, I'm not the right. You know what? Thanks for the signs and wonders. Thanks for your name. I'm not your guy. I'm still not your guy. And it's not going to be the last time, but it certainly is the first time that Moshe is going to try God's patience and God is going to lose a little bit of patience. Not for long. We'll come up with something. But when Moshe says, I can't speak so well, I've got a speech impediment, God's finally kind of going to lose it a little bit, but doesn't. Let's see how that plays out here in our final aliyah, again, verses 10 through 17. So do we have Harlan with us? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, we do, but it's funny because he has the Sharet Zedek building as a background.
He has the Sharet Zedek building as a background?
In the summertime.
Basically means he's freezing outside.
Well, not really, because it's sunny and
but he's not wearing a parka, so it's kind of odd.
Is it 11? Is it 11 years? Am I right on the date there, Harlan?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's 11 years to the day, actually.
2010.
Wow.
January 9th, 2010?
Yeah.
I was in Israel. I was coming back from Israel, or that was the story.
So was the weather that nice? Green grass and blue sky?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, this is from that day. Yeah.
It's very odd January.
Harlan will be chanting the Haftarah coming up, but for now we call him for this final aliyah. Yamod Hillel Yaron ben Zalman HaKohen v'Shiva Ginya Maftir Chazak.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMvorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai bi Adonai. Lo ish dvarim anochi, gam mitmol, gam mishirshom, gam me'az dabercha el avdecha, ki chvad peh uchvad lashon anochi. Vayomer Adonai elav, mi sam peh l'adam, O mi asu milem, o chiresh, o fikeach, o iver. Halo anochi Adonai, ve'ata lech, ve'nanochi ehyeh im picha, ve'horeticha asher tedaber. Vayomer bi Adonai, shlach na biad tishlach, vayicharaf Adonai b'Moshe. Vayomer Halo Aharon achicha halevi yadati ki daber yedaber hu vegam hinehu yotze likratecha veracha v'samach belibo v'dibarta elav v'samta et advarim befiv ve'anochi אהיה עם פיך ועם פיהו והוריתי אתכם את אשר תעשון ודברו לך אליהם והיהו יהיה לך לפה ואתה תהיה לו לאלוהים ואתה תהיה לו לאלוהים ואת המטה הזה תיקח בידיך אשר תעשה בו את האותות.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. The Haftarah, which Harlan will chant for us, and Yasher Koach on the Aliyah, Harlan. The Haftarah for Parshat Shemot will be the full Haftarah, as Harlan learned and chanted 11 years ago today at his bar mitzvah here on this bima, Shaarei Tzedek. It's page 343, taken from the prophet Isaiah. The book of Isaiah, it begins with chapter 27, verse 6. So Isaiah 27, 6 takes us all the way through to chapter 28, verse 13. And then two more verses are added that come from chapter 29. So if you're following a different Chumash, you'll have to skip to verses 22 and 23 at the end of chapter 29. It's way easier if you just follow on our website the printout from the Chumash, but you may not want to. So Isaiah 27, 6 to 28, 13 and 29, 22 to 23. But before we get to that, we invite you wherever you are, please rise as our shamus, Bill Weissman, leads us in Hagba and Glila, the lifting and tying of the Sefer Torah. Thanks, Bill. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Please be seated. Harlan Abels knows this, but he represents one of the few regrets in my career as a bar mitzvah teacher, that I didn't have the opportunity to teach him. I taught his older brother. I taught his younger brother. I've long known the Abels and Gutman families, but I was living away, and then I was traveling, and it wasn't going to work out, and it's something that Harlan's mother always reminds me of. And so she should. Like I said, it's a deep regret. But luckily for me, this is not the first time. In fact, almost every year since his bar mitzvah, Harlan has been back. Because the truth is, not a lot of kids have their bar mitzvah in January in Winnipeg, and so this Haftarah is usually open, and we have an opportunity to hear Harlan chant it year after year, which is about as close as I can get. I live vicariously through his teacher, Eyal, who had the honor of teaching Harlan for his bar mitzvah. So I'm thrilled when I texted Harlan and asked, even though I didn't teach you, you're going to come back and do it? And he said, sure. So we turn things over to Harlan Abels, the Haftarah for Shemot, page 343, Isaiah 27, verse 6 to 28, verse 13, and adding in 29, verses 22 and 23. Take it away, Harlan.
Well, you told me that Ryan did it and did so well and that he couldn't outshine me, so I couldn't really say no.
A little guilt.
As is customary with myself and my brothers, we give a little shout out to To our fans that are watching across Winnipeg and across Toronto. So hello to everybody. Thanks for coming. Here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbi'im tovim v'retzav v'dibrahem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'Torah uv'Moshe abdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nbi'ei ha'emet b'tzedek.
Amen.
Aba'im Yashresh Yaakov Yatzitz Ufarach Yisrael Umala'u Vnei Tevel Tenuva Hakemakat Makehu Hikahu Im Kehereg Harugav Horag Besasa'ah Beshalcha Terivena Haga Rucho Hakasha Beyom Kadim Lachen Bezot Yechupar Avon Yaakov Vezeh Kol Pri Hasir Chatato Besumo Kol Evnei Mizbeach Kavnei Gir Menu Patzot Lo Yakumu Asharim Echamanim Ki Ir Batzura Badad Naveh Meshulach B'Ne'ezav Hamidbar Shamir Egel V'Shamir Batz B'Chila Seifeya Bivosh Ketzira Tishavarna Nashim Ba'ot Meirot Ota Ki Lo Arbinot Hu Al Ken Lo Yirachamenu Osehu Lo Yotzero Lo Yechunenu V'haya Bayom Hahu Yachbot Adonai Mishibolet HaNahar Ad Nachal Mitzrayim V'atem Teluketu Le'achad Echad B'nei Yisrael V'haya Bayom Hahu Itaka B'shofar Gadol Uva'u Ovadim Be'eretz Ashur V'hanidachim Be'eretz Mitzrayim V'yishtachavu l'Adonai B'har HaKodesh B'Yerushalayim Hoi Ateret Geut Shikorei Ephraim V'tzitz Novel Tzvi Tifarto Asher Al Rosh Geshmanim Halumei Yain Hine Chazak V'amitz l'Adonai Kezerem Barad Sa'ar Katev Kezerem Maim Kebirim Shotefim Iniach La'aretz Beyad Beraglaim Teremasna Ateret Geut Shikorei Ephraim V'hayeta Tzitzat Novel Tzvi Tifarto Asher Al Rosh Geshmanim Kibikura Beterem Kaitz Asher Yir'eh Haro'eh Ota Be'oda Bechapo Yipla'ena Bayom Hahu Yihiyeh Adonai Tzvaot La'ateret Sevi Bilitzvirat Tipara Bishar Amo Uruach Mishpat Layoshev Al Mishpat Beligvura Meshivei Milchama Shara V'gam ele bayayin shagu Uvashechar ta'u Kohen ben Avi Shagu vashechar Nivleu min hayayin Ta'u min hashechar Shagu baro'eh Haku pliliyah Ki poshulchanot Maleu ki tzo'ah Bli makom Et mi yoredea Bet mi yavin shemua Gemulei mechalav Atike mishadayim Ki tzav latzav, tzav latzav, kav lakav, kav lakav, ze'er sham, ki bela'ageh safa, uvlashon acheret, ve'yedaber el ha'am hazer, asher amar alehem, zot hamenucha hanichu le'ayef, וזאת המרגעה, ולא אהבו שמוע, והיה להם דבר אדוני, צב לצב, צב לצב, קו לקו, קו לקו, זער שם, למען ילכו, וכשלו אחור, ונשברו, ונוקשו, ונלכדו, לכן כה אמר אדוני אל בית יעקב, אשר פדה את אברהם, לא אתה יבוש יעקב, ולא אתה פניו יחברו, כי בראתו ילדיו, מעשה ידיים, בקרבו יקדישו שמי, והקדישו את קדוש יעקב, ואת אלוהי ישראל יעריצו. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל עמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן, אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו.
האל הנאמן בכל דבריו.
אמן.
רחם על ציון גהי בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו.
משמח ציון בבניה.
אמן.
שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו, באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסו לא יושב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו.
מגן דוד.
אמן.
על התורה, ועל העבודה, ועל הנביאים, ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך, ומברכים אותך, יברך שמך, בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו.
מקדש השבת.
Amen. Yasher Koach, Harlan. What a fantastic job with the Haftarah this morning. Thank you so much for doing it. It was perfect.
Yasher Koach, Harlan.
Thank you.
Yasher Koach. You're a pleasure to listen to.
Absolutely. And that picture is fantastic for January the 9th.
Yeah, it's one of a kind.
We thank Harlan and all of our honorees to the Torah this morning. Leslie Emery, Rabbi Anibal Mas, celebrating a birthday. Dolly Cohen, celebrating a birthday. Phyllis Laveman, Rose Muchnick, and Thelma Suris. Thank you to everyone who participated in the chat throughout the Torah service. And thank you to the team here. Leslie, Bill Weissman, Rabbi Mas, and Marvin Polanski, our audio-visual director. We're going to move to the Misha Beirach for all those who are sick, and then make a special announcement for the new month. That's what we've got before we return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. So I'll invite you to turn back to your Sidurim, trade in your Chumash. We're done with the Chumash until next week, until our next Parsha. And we're going to move back to the Sidur and go to page 34. We'll call out the names of people on our list. Again, you can call the office and add names to our list to be read for 4 consecutive Shabbatot for a month. For all those people for whom we are praying, who are needing a return to a state of better health, whether it's physical health, mental health, spiritual health, whatever it may be. We'll read the names as you go. If there are people you'd like to add who are not on the list, you can add them through the chat. We're keeping an eye on that. And I'll read the list of names that we have to start. We're praying for Bill Adams, Yenta Bat Shoshana, Shanda Grace, David Zvi ben Sarah Pessel, Dina Rachel bat Sarah Esther, Yitzchak Chaim ben Sarah, Tova Yael bat Dina Rachel, Eliezer Meir ben Tova Yael, Katriel Yosef ben Tova Yael, Iris bat Yafa, Michelle Sipe, Esther bat Mina, Sarah bat Esther, Yaakov ben Sarah, Shoshana bat Sarah, Adrian McDonald, Frida bat Regina, Moshe Aharon ben Leah, Miriam Rachel bat Leah, Rishon ben Sarah, Mituka bat Batsheva, Atara bat Etel, Shmuel Leib ben Gittel, Stephen Lee, Leah bat Adele, Colin Rich, Betsy Bascom, Leah bat Rachel, Dvor Gittel bat Leah, Binyamin Pinchas ben Dvor Gittel, Nachum Leib ben Leah, Aviva bat Malka, Yaakov ben Sion ben Miriam, Isabella bat Sarah, Chaya Zahava bat Leah, Daniel ben Dvora, Batsheva bat Sarah, Yitzchak Dov ben Bela, Rivka Sora bat Leah Malka, Elokim Pesach ben Esther Pessi, Liba bat Fagel, Sharon bat Goldie, Shira bat Sarah, Hachazan Shefer ben Miriam, and Shandel bat Miriam.
Eden Lerner, Alan Rodkin, Herbert Singer, Carla bat Nancy, Andres ben Gloria, Sam's List, Shelby Lerner, Ilana Rachel bat Eleanor, Eliezer ben Sarah, Rosa Pell, David Tanner, and Hillel David Chaim ben Miriam.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone, for adding names to our Misha Berach. Leslie Emery will lead us. We're on page 34 in the Sidur, the special Misha Berach by Debbie Friedman.
Eliyahu Shlomo ben Chana. Misha Berach Avotenu Lekor the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu lekor refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. May those in need of healing be in a better state of health soon.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone, for that Misha Berach and your contributions. Today is our last Shabbat before the next Rosh Chodesh, before the next new month. That makes this a Shabbat Mevarchim HaChodesh, a Shabbat of blessing the new month. Before we return the Sefer Torah to the Ark, we invite you to rise to stand with us as Alice Weissman, our honorary new month blesser, joins us yet again to bring in the new month of Shvat, which, for all of those of you playing along at home, begins on Yom Chamishi, this coming Thursday. This is, of course, the month that we celebrate on the 15th day, Tu B'Shvat, the new year of the trees. And it begins this Thursday. So again, I invite you to rise, turn to page 40 in your Sidur, as Alice Weissman leads us in the blessing of this new month of Shvat.
Yehi ratzon milfanecha Avotenu, Shatnechadesh Alinu, Shatnechadesh Abba, Latova V'Liveracha, V'Titen Lanu, Hayim Aruchim, Hayim Shel Shalom, Hayim Shel Tova, Hayim Shel Bracha, Hayim Shel Parnasa, Hayim Shel Hilut Hatamot, Hayim שיש בהם יראת שמיים ויראת חן. חיים שאין בהם בושה וכלימה, חיים של אושר וכבוד, חיים שתברך בתורה, ויראת שמיים, חיים שימרו משלום, ליבנו לטובה, אמן. מי שעשה ניסים לאבותינו, וגאלתם מהגלות לחירות, הוא יגאל אותנו בקרוב, ויקבץ נדחנו ארבע כנפות הארץ. חברים, אוהב ישראל, ונאמר ונאמר אמן. ראש חודש שבט יהיה ביום חמישי, הבא עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובה.
Rosh Chodesh vayeh b'yom chamishi haba alenu v'al kol Yisrael l'tova. The month of Shvat will begin on Thursday. May it be a month of goodness for us, for all Israel, and for all of humanity.
יחדשהו הקדוש ברוך הוא עלינו ועל כל עמו בית ישראל לחיים ושלום.
Amen.
ששון ושמחה.
Amen.
וישועה ונחמה. ונאמר ונאמר amen.
Beautiful as always, Alice. Yisher kochech. Thank you so much for blessing this new month of Shvat for us. We invite everyone to remain standing as we return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. I got it. I can do it. Page 41. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shmo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim vayarem keren le'amo tehila, tehila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am krovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 43. It's Chaim hi la machazikim ba v'tom chea meushar derachea darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu Chadesh yameinu Chadesh yameinu Kekedem. Please be seated. Quick announcements, and then we will turn things over to Rabbi Mas for our Dvar Torah here as we've just hit noon Central Time. We've mentioned before pallbearers to help us during Code Red. Who knows how much longer that will continue for here in Winnipeg. If you are able, if you are willing, if you can make time to put yourself on a list, it doesn't mean that you're going to be a pallbearer every single time there's a funeral. But for example, our friends at Congregation Etz Chaim, they have 3 funeral services tomorrow. So this is a list that we share throughout the entire community through the Chesed Shalemis to help us be able to help families who can't sometimes find pallbearers, and there are all these restrictions on people being able to come into the cemetery for these services. But staff, people who are working as pallbearers, get an exemption to come in from outside the family. And so we want you, if you're able and you haven't done so already, contact Estelle Raber or contact the Chesed Shalemis directly and put your name on the list to be called if and when they need pallbearers. We mentioned Chef Joel and his new menu for Shared Zedek Catering. Check that out. Try to order by this Tuesday, please, and then you pick it up on Friday. So order by this Tuesday, Chef Joel's new Shabbat dinner takeout menu. Rabbi Anibal Mas has his, I guess you do it every month, right? A concert for our friends every couple of months?
Oh, every month.
Every month.
Always on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Always on a Tuesday at 2. This coming Tuesday is the monthly Rabbi Mas concert. They stream it throughout the Simkin Center, but you don't have to be in the Simkin Center to watch it. It's available through our website as well. So that's this Tuesday at 2, Rabbi Mas's musical concert. And our colleague, Dr. Rina Sector Elbaz, is launching Hebrew Crash Course Level 2. Unfortunately, if you haven't signed up for it, it's full. All 30 spots have been taken. But if you are interested in being put on a wait list, or if you express your interest for future Hebrew language training, please contact the shul office by phone or by email. Maybe there'll be another one. I don't know. Minyan this evening with Bill Wiseman and Havdalah with Rena is at 6. Tomorrow morning, Bill will lead both of our services, Shacharit at 9, Mincha Mariv at 6. During the week, Shacharit, Monday through Friday, is at 7:30 a.m. Monday through Thursday, Mincha Mariv is at 6 p.m. And on Friday nights, Kabbalat Shabbat begins at 5:30. Thank you again to Rabbi Mas, to Bill Wiseman, to Leslie Emery, Marvin Polanski, and all of you. I'm now excited to hear, because it's your birthday, I will actually probably even fake laugh at your joke. Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
There is no joke today.
Oh,
Nah, just kidding.
oh, jeez.
Of course there is a joke.
I figured on your birthday, nothing's going to stop you. So please,
So by the
I
way,
can't
if
wait
you
to
want to
hear
study
it.
a little bit more Torah, we have a class of Torah every Thursday at noon called Torah L'Chaim. We used to have it Saturdays right after the service, but this is it's an opportunity. Some people, you can take your lunch, connect on your computer, same channels you're using now to watch the services. We can study Torah together. So some of the things that I'm going to mention today were the things that actually came out during the last class. So I got inspired to prepare this sermon for all of you. But first, yes, we have a joke. And I heard about these 3 rabbis that they were out in a lake on a fishing boat. 3 together. It was a very, very quiet place, very peaceful environment. And then one of the rabbis said, look, we never have this opportunity to be the 3 of us together here. And look around. So peaceful, so quiet. So maybe we can use this opportunity. And we can actually say and share with each other some of our deepest secrets. And then perhaps if you're struggling with something, we can pray together for each other. Wow. So one of the rabbis said, okay, I like it. And actually I would like to share with you, my friends, my colleagues, that I have a problem with gambling. You see, sometimes I sneak out of the house at night. My wife doesn't know it. My congregation doesn't know it. The second rabbi say, well, now that you mentioned that, I have a problem with cheating. He said, I never pay my taxes. My wife doesn't know it. My congregation doesn't know it. The third rabbi remained very quiet. He didn't say a word. So the other rabbi said, come on, tell us something. Nothing. I said, come on, we won't get off this boat until you share something with us. So the third rabbi said, well, my problem is with gossiping, and I cannot see the day to get off this boat.
I thought the punchline of your joke was going to be 3 rabbis went on a fishing trip. I was trying to imagine you, me, and another rabbi.
But I like the title of this sermon. Be quiet. Actually, that is. I want to talk to you today about be quiet. You know, and I was realizing that sometimes we have so much stuff flooding our heads. I don't know if it ever happens to you, that we have so much noise inside our heads all the time. We wake up in the morning to find, our inboxes full of messages. We have text messages on our phones, WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages. We have sometimes our kids, adding more noise in the morning, social media. Then we have the news. So much going on in our lives. And we are absorbing everything. And this is interesting because we realize that, and we know that we should find a way to quiet our minds. But nevertheless, it looks like we have the tendency to gravitate towards that. Doesn't matter how much we know that we feel overwhelmed for everything going on, we seem to go there, and sometimes we even add more and more stuff and noise to our daily routine. I was realizing that, yes, sometimes we have too much at home, too much at work, but then we come into our cars. Should be a peaceful time. What is the first thing we do? We turn on the radio, right? Or sometimes even when we take holidays, we can take a vacation. What do? We use the time to watch TV, to read a novel, to play video games. Always. We keep adding more stuff and more noise no matter what. And I say, why? Why do we have this tendency to add all this noise into our lives? And I realized that maybe sometimes we are afraid to be alone with our thoughts. Because what happens when you finally have the peace that you deserve and you're alone with your thought? Well, those are times that maybe you may wonder, who am I? Or what's unique about me? Or what do I stand for? What do I believe in? Am I doing the right thing in my life? Am I doing what makes me happy? Am I doing something that is fulfilling me? And sometimes we don't want to go there. So we just bring more and more noise so we won't have the space that we deserve to make all those difficult questions, because we don't want to know the answer. And I believe that if there was somebody in history who understood this principle very well, was Pharaoh. Yes, the Pharaoh that we read in this parsha. Remember what happened when Moses finally goes to Pharaoh, and Moses said, let my people go. The Israelites don't want to be slaves anymore. Let them go. And Pharaoh said, oh, perhaps now they have too much time to think about being free, to think about other things that they would like to do. Really, said Pharaoh. So Pharaoh gave them more tasks, more jobs, more things to do, so they won't have a break to make all those fundamental questions, and they will question about their lives. Is it good to be slaves? Maybe I can achieve to do something more. Pharaoh wouldn't allow that. So he brought more stuff and more noise into their lives. He understood that principle. And I believe that God understood that principle as well. Think about this. In this parsha, God finally talks to Moses. God finally told Moses that he was the one, the deliverer, the one that is going to take the Israelites out of Egypt. But have you noticed that even though Moses did great things during his life, and I was thinking, why wouldn't God tell Moses that he was the one when Moses intervened and actually killed the Egyptian to save a slave? He stood up for a slave. Great thing. At that moment, God should say, Moses, you're amazing. You are the one. But no, God didn't say that. Not even when the parsha said that Moses, who grew up in the palace, he grew up as a prince. One day he looked at his brothers suffering, doing all this harsh labor, and the Torah said that he went out, and the rabbis understand that actually Moses helped them with their tasks. Why didn't God spoke to him there? Why didn't God spoke to Moses when he defended the daughters of Yitro? Why didn't God spoke to him when he was working for Yitro? Because Moses at that time, even though he was doing great things, he has too much noise in his life, too much stuff going on. And maybe it's not that God didn't try to talk to Moses. Moses wasn't ready to listen to the voice of God for everything that was going on. When did God talk to Moses? When he was alone. And after, in that environment, when Moses saw the burning bush, and he comes to that burning bush and was nothing else. When Moses found that quiet place, finally, God spoke to Moses. And after that experience of having this quiet time between Moses and God, Moses finally discovered, well, I know the Torah says that actually God told him, but I would say the big picture, the big principle here is that Moses realized, he discovered that all those hidden talents that he had, that Moses didn't even realize that he had it. Moses didn't realize he had it on him to be the one taking the Israelites out of slavery. Why didn't he realize that before? Because he never found that quiet place to have that deep conversation with God, and I also believe deep conversation with himself. And I realized that maybe in this last year, we have to stay at home. Maybe we have lots of time for us to be alone with ourselves. But we kept bringing more and more noise because we don't really know how to be alone with ourselves. We don't realize that eventually we have to go there. We need to have that deep conversation with ourselves to realize that there are certain questions that we have to ask. Who am I? What's unique about me? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? Am I doing the right thing? So we're thinking, next time you have an opportunity to be all by yourself, instead of complaining, take that as an opportunity. Get inspired by this parsha and ask yourself those questions without bringing any external noise. And I can guarantee you, just like Moses, that you are going to make it to the other side with inspiration, with more passion that you didn't even realize you have it in you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yasher koach.
Yasher koach, Rabbi. Thank you so much.
Baruch Tiyeh.
Let's conclude, beginning with Aleinu, page 44. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אינו אמת מלכנו וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We'll ask you to remain standing as we turn to page 46 and join together in the words of the mourner's Kaddish. This week we mourn the passing of David Rabb, and we offer our heartfelt sympathy to Sheila Rabb, Jeff Rabb, Irene Zimmer and Jack Sullivan, Ian Rabb and Trevor Watson, and Merle Schwartz. We also mourn the passing of Israel Sudi Kleiman and offer our sincere condolences to Ora Kleinman, Simcha and Pearl Kleiman, Raphael and Natalie Kleiman, and Sam and Shirley Kleiman. We mourn the passing of Arnold Cooper and offer our deepest sympathy to Eileen Higgins Cooper and Earl Cooper and Lisette Ross. And we mourn the passing of Jack Zaidman and offer our sincere condolences to Shirley Zaidman, Brian Zaidman, Terry Zaidman, David Zaidman, Stacy Ehlers, and Shelley Chachinoff. We extend our condolences to the families of Rose Shell, Sheldon Clayman, Evelyn Numero, Barton Rawson, Sally Gozansky, Bernice Walder, Marcia Schwartzman, and Zyvan Saper, as these families are still in Shloshim, the first month of losing their loved ones. And this week we commemorate the Yortzites of David Goldstein, father of Esther Steinman, Goldie Laveman, sister-in-law of Phyllis Laveman, Goldie Winters, mother of Edward Winters, Sophie Stitz, mother of Rose Muchnick, Philip Feldman, uncle of Jackie Sipe, Annie Rusoff, grandmother of Thelma Suris, Edith Gardner, mother of Harriet Rosenbaum, Jared Goldenberg, husband of Beth Goldenberg, Gerald Goldenberg, husband of Beth Goldenberg, and Joseph Ainemer, all of blessed memory. Page 46. Please join me in the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'hadar, v'taleh, v'talal, shemei de kudsha,
Barichu.
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Thank you again to everyone for joining us, for inviting us into your homes or wherever you are for this service. Well, Rabbi, it's your birthday. Would you like, what version of Adon Olam would you like to do? I'll give you I know that I haven't given you the choice before, but.
Yeah, I know. The outline says Mao Tzur.
No, it's an old
Makes no
outline.
sense.
That was from when we did Hanukkah.
So let's do Yeshiva Boys.
Okay. Adon Olam, page 47. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Yeah.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Zin Nibra. Let Nasa, V'chevzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Le'nasa, V'chevzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Le'nasa, V'chevzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
והוא אחד ואין שני, לעם שלו להחמירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, לא האות והמשרה.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Le'nasa, V'chevzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצור חבלי בצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, נת כוסי ביום אקרב.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Le'nasa, V'chevzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
בידו הפקיד רוחי, ותשם מהעירה, ועם רוחי כביאתי, אדוני לי ולא ירא.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Le'nasa, V'chevzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
Shkoyach, Rabbi. Happy
Shkoyach,
birthday.
everyone. By the way, we have a question here. What time is tonight's service?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock Central Time.
Or like we call it Winnipeg time.
Winnipeg time.
Or Chicago time. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.